First up, you aren't actually lazy. Let's clear this up right away. Truly lazy people don't feel that horrible pit in their stomach at 11 at night about the thing they never started. But you feel it every night. You have real goals. You know exactly what you need to do. You've watched 100 videos explaining how, and you still can't get yourself to begin. That isn't laziness at all. It's a specific broken thing with a specific name, and Stanford has been studying it for years. Your brain is fried on fast dopamine. You've eaten so many little hits of easy reward that a slow reward, like writing one chapter or lifting real weight or learning a hard skill, tastes like nothing to you anymore. The signal is still there, but you honestly can't feel it. So you scroll a little more. Then you feel bad about scrolling, so you scroll some more. Because feeling bad is another thing dopamine can fix in about 3 seconds. Now the ugly part comes next. The self-help industry knows all of this. Every 5 a.m. club video, every hustle reel, every ambition edit with the sad piano music gives you a tiny hit of dopamine that makes you feel like you did something. But you didn't do anything real. You watched a video about doing something. Your brain got paid and your life didn't move an inch. That's exactly why nothing works long-term. The people selling motivation content already know their retention data. They know most viewers close the app more tired than when they opened it. But they don't need you to change your life. They only need you to feel like you might on repeat forever. Feeling like you might is the actual business model. The real way out isn't more discipline. It's a completely different kind of dopamine. And this is where dopamine actually gets interesting. For decades, scientists thought dopamine was the pleasure chemical. It turns out that isn't quite right. Dopamine is the wanting chemical. It fires right before you get the thing, not the second you get it. So it's the sound of a slot machine spinning, not the payout at the end. Dr. Anna Lemke runs the addiction clinic at Stanford University. In her book, Dopamine Nation, she describes your brain like a seesaw, with pleasure on one side and pain on the other. Every hit of pleasure tips it one way. Then your brain, trying to stay in balance, pushes back just as hard the opposite way. Same amount of pain, right after the fun. That's the crash after the scroll. The gray, empty feeling at the end of a 2-hour session you weren't even enjoying by minute 10. But the problem isn't dopamine itself. Dopamine built humans into who we are. Dopamine is what made your ancestors walk 20 miles for a handful of berries. The real problem is the insane speed and size of the hits we're getting today. A cigarette gives your brain a small, fast hit. A slot machine gives a much bigger one. But TikTok gives you an unlimited fast hit. Tiny every time, but brand new every 3 seconds. And over 1 billion people are strapped in for hours a day. Your brain quietly adapts. Your baseline gets higher. And real life starts to feel weirdly gray by comparison. So that's the actual trap. It isn't that you love your phone. It's that your phone quietly made everything else in your life feel boring. Lemke's fix for this is old and it's uncomfortable. You have to press on the pain side of the seesaw on purpose. That means cold water, fasting, hard exercise, focused boring work, anything your brain doesn't want to do. Do it long enough and dopamine returns to normal and small things start to feel big again. She calls it hormesis. You pay upfront with pain and the payoff arrives later. But nobody sells this fix because nobody can package it. The whole cure lives on the exact side of the seesaw the entire attention economy is built to keep you off. Which brings us straight to Musashi. Back in 1596, a 13-year-old boy in a poor Japanese farming village saw a public challenge poster nailed up in the village square. The challenger was a grown samurai named Arima Kihei, a trained fighter from the Shinto-ryu school. So the boy calmly wrote his own name on the poster. His uncle heard about it and begged him to back out, but he refused. He marched into the duel with a 6-foot wooden staff, threw the trained samurai to the ground, and beat him to death with the stick. That boy grew up to be Miyamoto Musashi. He fought over 60 formal duels in his life, and he lost exactly none of them. In 1612, he sailed to a tiny island called Ganryujima to face the greatest swordsman in Japan, a man named Sasaki Kojiro. But Musashi showed up 3 hours late on purpose. He carried a wooden sword he'd whittled from the boat's oar on the way over. The whole fight lasted seconds. Then Musashi calmly walked back to his boat while Kojiro lay dead in the sand. Every opponent Musashi ever faced had trained their entire life to solve the problem of one specific sword. But Musashi kept doing things they had no answer for. So the quiet detail nearly every hustle video skips is this. He didn't win because he trained harder. He won because he trained differently, slowly, on the boring things they thought were beneath a real swordsman. Musashi wasn't only a killer either. He was a painter, a sculptor, a calligrapher, a woodcarver, and a serious writer. He built himself into a person who could do almost anything alone, from nothing. Then in 1643, at around age 60, he climbed into a small cave called Regondo in the mountains north of Kumamoto. Over the next 2 years, he wrote down exactly how he did all of it. That book is called The Book of Five Rings. Corporate strategists, pro coaches, and Silicon Valley CEOs still study it today for good reason. But buried inside it, plus a shorter one he wrote the week before his death, is a system that maps almost exactly onto what Stanford is proving right now about slow dopamine. It boils down to 3 rules. The first rule is time. Musashi wrote one line that changes everything if you let it sink in. He wrote, "Temper yourself with 1,000 days of practice and refine yourself with 10,000 days of training." 1,000 days is roughly 3 years. 10,000 days is closer to 30 years. Not 10,000 hours, notice. 10,000 actual full days. So rule 1 is this. Pick your one real game and set your clock in years, not weeks. That sounds obvious and boring on the surface. But it isn't either of those things when you try it. It fixes the ambitious, lazy problem right at the root. When your brain is fried on fast dopamine, every project you start seems like it needs to pay off in a week. So you start a business, and if it isn't making money in 3 weeks, it's dead to you. Then you start writing, and if the second draft comes back bad, you throw the whole idea away. Or you start lifting, and if you can't see abs by month 2, you quit and try a shiny new plan. But you're not weak here. Your reward system is running on slot machine time. Musashi's was running on quiet farmer's time. The moment you set your clock to 1,000 days, something wild happens in your head. The daily loss stops mattering. A bad day becomes 1 out of 1,000. A bad month becomes 1 out of 33. So you stop needing the win to arrive today, which means you stop lying to yourself, and you actually start showing up. This is where Lemke's science circles back in. Slow dopamine, the kind that comes from long, patient work, is the only kind that raises your baseline back to normal. Fast dopamine wrecks the baseline, but slow dopamine rebuilds it. So 1,000 days of one honest thing does more for your brain chemistry than 1,000 motivation videos ever could. Which brings us to rule 2, and honestly, it's the one that hurts. The second rule is the OAR. When Musashi sailed out to fight Sasaki Kojiro, he didn't bring a better sword. He brought a much worse one, hand-carved from a plain boat oar on the way over. Everyone on the beach thought he'd lost his mind, but he hadn't. Musashi had figured out that the only way to beat a man who trained his whole life for one perfect sword was to remove the sword from the fight entirely. So rule 2 is exactly the same idea. Subtract instead of adding. But every ambitious, lazy person tries to fix themselves by adding more stuff. They add a course. They add a productivity app. They add a supplement stack. They add a new morning routine they saw on Instagram last night. None of it ever works because the problem was never a missing tool. The real problem was the noise. You just couldn't hear yourself think under all of it. Musashi's Dokudo, the tiny book he wrote 7 days before his death, has 21 rules for life. Almost everyone is a refusal. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Do not depend on any partial feeling. Do not act according to customary beliefs. Do not chase after the taste of good food. He built the greatest career of his century by cutting his life down to the bone. Applied to your actual life, this means one app removed from your phone this week. One dead friendship you keep out of guilt, ended quietly. One side project on your list that isn't the real one, shelved for now. One night a week with 0 screens on, just you and one paper book. Every subtraction is a small press on the pain side of Lemke's seesaw. So boring is the actual treatment. Boring is the medicine you've been running away from your whole adult life. The people who can sit calmly inside boring win, because the world is now packed with people who can't. The third rule is the cave. Musashi ended his own life inside a stone cave. Not for religion, but for pure focus. He climbed into Regondo in his early 60s, and wrote the Book of Five Rings there completely alone. Over the last 2 years of his life, he was already famous across Japan. Rich lords across the country wanted him as their personal teacher, but he turned every one of them down. He lived in that cold cave until he was almost dead, and he finished the real work. So rule 3 is to finish everything alone. But every ambitious, lazy person makes the same mistake right here. They start the project loud. They tell everyone about it. They post about it online. They join a mastermind group. They go on a friend's podcast to talk about the book they're going to write someday. Then their own brain does something quietly cruel to them. It hands out the same dopamine hit for the announcement that it would have given for the actual finish. The brain takes the shortcut and closes the whole loop right there on the spot. Announcement now equals finish inside your head. The mission is over before the real work started. There's actual psychology research on this exact effect. When you tell people your big goal, your brain treats their positive reaction as a small reward. So part of your drive to finish quietly dies in that moment. And the pain of doing the work has nothing on the other side to make it worth doing. Musashi's answer was his cave. But yours doesn't have to be an actual cave. Yours is a shut door, a closed feed, and an early morning where nobody knows what you're working on. You finish quietly before anyone hears a word about it. So run all 3 rules together and you rebuild the reward system that ambitious, lazy people accidentally broke. 1,000-day clock, constant subtraction, and a quiet finish. That's the entire engine of slow dopamine. All 3 together, or none of them work. The last thing he ever wrote. 1 week before his death in June of 1645, Musashi handed his favorite student a short scroll called the Dokudo. The whole book is 21 lines total, less than a single page. Every rule inside it is a subtraction. Do not regret what is done. Do not resent trouble. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Do not chase the taste of good food. Do not hold on to possessions you no longer really need. Do not act according to customary beliefs. Do not fear death. But notice what he didn't put in there. He didn't tell his student to hustle harder. He didn't tell him to network. He didn't tell him to build a personal brand. He told him instead to stop reaching for every fast, cheap, easy thing that eats a person alive from the inside. And 400 years later, a Stanford psychiatrist would rediscover that exact rule inside a lab and use it to help her patients put down their phones. So this is what ambitious lazy actually is at the root. It isn't a character flaw hiding inside you. It's a person whose reward system got trained by an entire industry to want the wrong things at the wrong speed. But you're not broken, you're being farmed on purpose. And every single scroll session is one more small check going into somebody else's account, paid out of your own future. The wildest part is how much cheaper the fix is than the problem. A new phone that promises to make you smarter costs more than a copy of the Dakota. A gym membership costs more than the complete works of Musashi. But the system that actually rewires your brain is the one nobody has any reason to sell you. Musashi fixed his brain with a wooden oar in a stone cave. You have infinitely more than he ever had. So the only question left is whether you keep waiting to feel motivated or whether you accept the ugly truth that motivation is the thing you get after you start, not before. So, what's your first 1,000-day commitment? Don't settle for your baseline. Go beyond it.